Ben, good morning. What did this court rule?
Well, in fact, we've had no word from the court itself, the Military Commission itself yet, Michael. As you can imagine, the US Army moves rather slowly on these things, but it has been confirmed by David Hicks' lawyers here in the United States that his conviction has been, the term they use is vacated. Now, essentially what that means is that it's been overturned. There is no conviction hanging over David Hicks any longer. It's a bit of a complicated legal process that's taken place here. Essentially what happened was David Hicks was charged with providing material support to terrorism. That charge was brought before the Military Commission. David Hicks pleaded guilty, but it was in fact an appeals court ruling last year that he was part of that ruled that that case could not be tried by a military commission. Essentially, the Military Commission did not have the power or the jurisdiction to hear that particular charge. So in that case, it's been vacated, as they say. It does not stand.
Okay, and one of the reasons prosecutors continue to fight David Hicks's appeal was that as part of that plea deal, and I know full well about that because I was at Guantanamo Bay in 2007 reporting on that, was that David Hicks would not make any appeals, but, Ben, this US court has rejected that argument.
Yeah, it has, and it ends what's been 16 years, a 16-year-long process for David Hicks, a process, of course, which he started himself when he went to Kosovo and converted to Islam and trained with the Kosovo Liberation Army, and then in 2000 went to Pakistan. He joined the militant group Lashkar-e-Toiba. He then went to Afghanistan, where he attended an al-Qaeda training camp. He met Osama bin Laden, and it was there that he was picked up by the Northern Alliance on the battlefield and then into the hands of the United States. And he spent 5 years at Guantanamo Bay. Now, his lawyers all along have contended that the only reason David Hicks pleaded guilty in 2007 was to get a plea deal that would get him out of Guantanamo Bay. They provided an affidavit which detailed the torture that he says he experienced there at Guantanamo Bay, including beatings and sleep deprivation and long periods of solitary incarceration, not being allowed outside. So it was always the argument that the only reason he pleaded guilty to this conviction was simply to get out. And that is what happened. He came home to Australia at the end of 2007 and has been out ever since. But of course, the conviction was still there, or at least it was until today.
And finally, Ben, this of course comes as US President Barack Obama continues his efforts to close that facility. As we know, he promised to do that on day one of his presidency back in 2008. We do know that the number of detainees at Guantanamo Bay is relatively tiny compared to the peak back in the middle of last decade.
But yes, absolutely. And this was a campaign promise back in 2008 when Barack Obama was elected, and one that he has been trying to fulfil ever since, but it just hasn't been able to happen. The Congress are not prepared to let those people who are incarcerated there out. They argue that so many of them have returned to the battlefield and simply taken up arms against the United States again, that can't happen. We're in fact going to be hearing from Barack Obama shortly on the issue of counter-terrorism. I think within the hour he's hosting a summit here on ways of stopping, I guess, people whose journey matches that of David Hicks, who have decided to head overseas and to take up arms or to fight against the United States. He's talking about counter-terrorism and ways to stop it from happening. We're going to be hearing from him shortly.
OK, look forward to it. Ben Knight in Washington, thank you so much.